think that we're going to be able to continue our current first world standard of living and massive disproportionate energy consumption, or will we have to make some sacrifices in order to help those who are currently less fortunate? Will they be able to come up to the standard that we currently experience, or will our standard have to decrease? How's that going to play forward?
Just before you answer, can you guys hear the questions on the video feed?
No, I can't.
Okay. If they were directed at you, I'll make sure that I send them your way.
Microphone around here, so. Okay. Do you believe that we're going to be able to continue with our current first world standard of living and disproportionate energy consumption, or will we have to make some sacrifices in order to allow those people who are currently disadvantaged to come up to a standard of living somewhere in the middle between where they are now and where we are? And will we need to make sacrifices, or will we continue to experience the same standards that we're used to?
Wow. Yeah. I guess as you asked that question, I'm thinking of the slide that talked about overall demand. And in that slide, I had about a 25 trillion cubic foot number. And I know nationally we're right around 100. And yet the total world amount is only 4 times more what we do here. And so certainly in the United States, we are energy hogs. And frankly, I'm a little bit of a leader of that band. And so I know from at least my personal perspective that I feel that we need to come down some. Now, whether or not that energy and that consumption will actually get across our borders into other countries is another whole dynamic. But I really do sense that in America we're recognizing that. And you're seeing a movement, much because of the people in this room today, that we are changing our views on energy and how we consume that energy. And so certainly I see those bars getting lower. I think earlier we talked about the apex of some of the plugins already. I see that coming down. Now, how we get that across our borders into other areas could be a really tough situation.
Sure. Maybe we can just provide a perspective here from Rocky Mountains too. I think it is a large challenge, and the numbers that are commonly bandied about is Americans use about 10,000 watts continuously. Europeans use around 6,000 watts continuously, and the Chinese use 1,000 watts continuously. And so somewhere in there needs to be a happy medium. I do hold out quite a bit of hope, though, that between efficient use of resources, where we think we can cut back substantially, and when I say cut back, I mean get more service per unit of input energy. There's a large gap there, an opportunity. In fact, I showed you one for Nebraska. If we combine that with the use of energy sources, which are much more renewable, then there's a hope, at least in my mind, that as the U.S. is becoming much more efficient in its use of energy, and the rest of the world hopefully can start to adopt more sustainable or renewable sources of energy, there'll be some happy medium struck there. But I would, it would be remiss of me to say, oh, it's so easy and it's a slam dunk, we'll be there in 20 years. It is an imperative for us in America to think very hard about this challenge and to think how much time, energy, and resource we want to put against it to avoid some future state that we would just as soon not see occur.
Let me take that one too as I'm sitting here thinking about it. In my opening comment, I said that one of the reasons OBBD chose the word energy efficiency versus conservation is we didn't want to send a message, we want you to take candles and go back to the cave. And I think the gentleman in your question, I personally do not think we need to lower our standard of living. We simply need to figure out, as Stephen was pointing out, is how do we make better utilization of the resources that we have today so we can attain that or retain that same standard of living? And then how do we come up with new energy sources? You know, and I would argue that I hope the rest of the world can come up to our same standard by learning from the same lessons that we have on how to use energy far more efficiently than we ever have in the past.
Everybody can hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have a question on stimulus money. You know, there is a lot of money put into stimulus to weatherization, building optimization designs, and conserve energy on publicly funded buildings. Is Omaha utility companies working with the Nebraska Energy Office to see how we can capitalize those and maximize those funds to state of Nebraska? And the other point I want to make is, mentioned about state of Nebraska using high energy users. GSA has done studies on 12 buildings, which are nationally done by Pacific Labs, PLLN. And 2 buildings which are best performing in the entire country are in Omaha, Nebraska. So Nebraska is not doing that bad as far as setting the standards.
I'll start on that. From the City of Omaha standpoint, we are going to be receiving about $4.3 million through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. There was a number of different activities that we're going to be pursuing that we think will help reduce the city's consumption of natural resources. We're going to be looking at some things we can do with fleet vehicles, some things we can do with energy efficiencies in buildings. We're also going to be spending some of that money to do public outreach and education, to also work hopefully with Rocky Mountain Institute. We'll be doing an RFP to bring someone on board to help us generate a master plan. We're working on this Environment Omaha master plan right now. This would be a component of that to help us really drill down and find those energy efficiencies that we can bring into the City of Omaha's operations and reduce our costs and reduce our carbon footprint as well. So we're working on those things right now. We have some of that information has to be sent to the feds roughly by the end of this month. Then there's a period after that before the funds will start to flow. But we're working on that right now and hope to be able to take advantage of that soon.
I'd also like to say that this work, there we go. I'm just smiling because I like the technical challenges. I apparently wasn't the only one here tonight. OBBD is aggressively looking at that. Number one, the Office of Energy in Nebraska has about $30-some million that's coming to them. We're working with them hand in hand on how can we make the best utilization. Most of those dollars are focused at energy efficiency. So we're trying to figure out, when I talked about the 31 programs we're bringing forward over the next few years, how do we leverage those by taking advantage of the stimulus dollars that are coming through there. There's also many other resources. We're working and watching the Department of Energy. They're coming out with direct grants that will be available to utilities and others. In Nebraska, the Department of Economic Development also has grants that can be used through the block grant process to help cities and counties become more energy efficient. We're working with those. Department of Transportation, we're doing a project, or we're hopeful we'll be able to do a project to increase the efficiency of our diesel fleet. There's dollars out there for hybrids. OBB, by the way, not unlike what Dave talked about, his liquid natural gas, is that right? Fuel. We have hybrid vehicles in our fleet now. So yes, absolutely, we're taking advantage of every dollar that we can find, that we can help leverage those dollars to help move this forward faster and more efficiently, and at the same time, frankly, at least saving your utility dollars on one side of the equation.